With few exceptions, the young population of children and adolescents are not consuming recommended levels of calcium and vitamin D, and this creates a potential health problem for those children. Calcium is very important in terms of the normal development of the child because during childhood is when people are growing taller and their bones, their skeleton is also getting to contain more and more calcium. And if there is insufficient amount of calcium that's in the diet, then that's going to restrict the growth of children. It's going to make the strength of their bones less so that they're more likely to break a bone should they fall. And also, when they grow older, they're going to have less bone mineral so that as they age, everybody is going to be losing bone mineral. And that puts the older person at risk of what's called osteoporosis, in which there's an increased possibility of breaking a bone, particularly your hip bone, in older people. And that disease related to the elderly actually begins in childhood. The relationship between calcium and obesity is a controversial area. Within the last decade or so, there have been a large number of studies that have found associations between dietary calcium intake and obesity. And because of the obesity epidemic, also in children, there's the possibility that higher calcium intakes may help maintain lower body weight. That, however, continues to be a controversial area of research, and there is no consensus as to the importance of a high calcium diet in terms of maintaining a normal body weight. Dairy and milk-based intake is very important to be in the food supply of a child so that they can have a high calcium intake. Milk is one of the richest sources of calcium of all the foods that are available in the diet. Although calcium is widely distributed in different foods, it's found in vegetables, there's a little bit in meat, and also a little bit in fruits. It's in milk and milk-based products that are the richest natural sources of calcium. And also that calcium can be absorbed very well by the body. Other products that are made from milk, such as yogurts or other type products, can also be important to increase one's calcium intake. The main focus for many, many years in terms of the importance of calcium in the diet has focused on the skeleton, and particularly in children, to maintain appropriate skeletal growth during the period of linear growth. High calcium diets are very important. But now within the last 2 decades, or even less than that, there's been a number of new exciting investigations that suggest that high calcium diet can have an important health effects beyond the skeleton. Just as an example, high calcium diets have also been shown to result in a reduction in blood pressure in children as well as in adults. There's also high calcium diets are associated with reduced risk of cancer of the large intestine, the colon. So there are many potential reasons, even beyond the skeleton, that a person should maintain a high calcium intake, not only in childhood, but throughout their entire life. The lack of vitamin D has classically been associated with the development of a problem in young children called rickets, in which the bones become deformed, the muscles become weak, and the children are likely to have a bone fracture. We thought we got rid of the problem. but still many places around the world, rickets is found in young children, even here in Brazil in a sunny climate. And this has primarily been due to vitamin D deficiency. Now, the number of cases of very severe vitamin D deficiency is relatively low. Now, the important thing is that beyond affecting the growth of a child's skeleton, vitamin D is very important to maintain appropriate levels of calcium absorption from the diet throughout your entire life. So the body uses vitamin D to help it absorb calcium. If you're vitamin D deficient, whether you're a young person, an adult, or an elderly person, you won't be able to absorb calcium from your diet with as high an efficiency as you should be able to. This can lead to the loss of bone mineral, and that can then weaken the bones, leading to an increased risk of osteoporosis and fracture in older people and bone fracture in younger people. In addition, within the last decade, there's been a tremendous amount of research interest in the role of vitamin D in other diseases: cardiovascular disease, cancer, asthma, respiratory illnesses in children. It's even is believed to play a role in obesity. Amount of vitamin D that you need to take into the diet to maintain an optimal vitamin D status still is somewhat controversial. The problem is, because we can make vitamin D in our skin, then we're not sure how much vitamin D has to be in the diet. Now, we do have recommendations, and it's currently recommended that children consume a level of vitamin D that's equivalent to 200 international units. Now, there are scientists who are calling for much higher levels of vitamin D, particularly in adults, but also it would be appropriate to children, in order to maintain what's considered an optimal level of vitamin D. And that optimal level is defined as that level which will affect the development of other conditions besides bone-related osteoporotic type conditions. And that level now is suggested to be much higher. There are recommendations that have been established in terms of an adequate level of calcium intake to maximize a person's ability to achieve what's called their peak bone mass. That when you're about in your late 20s, early 30s, your bones will become as strong as they are ever going to be. And that's a condition that you want to make sure that you reach. Now, individuals may differ in terms of how strong their bones are going to be for genetic reasons. But each person, if they consume sufficient amounts of calcium and vitamin D, has the opportunity to potentially reach their optimal bone mineral density. And that level is currently recommended to be 800 milligrams for older children and 1,300 milligrams per day for adolescents and adults.